And all right, well, let's do it. Let's do it so we can stream through this. So we have some important information to go through. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. For those that don't know, my name's Clifford Slater. I'm the president of the club currently, and I've been on the board for, I don't know, 10 plus years. Um, and as well as, a lot of other board members. Um, and I've been volunteering probably for 13 or 14 years. With the club, started like all of you as a coach. Actually got pulled into it when signed my second grader up for soccer, and the coach broke his foot. Sent an email out saying, "Can anybody coach?" And I said, "Well, I played a lot of ultimate frisbee, so I'm perfect for this job." And signed up to raise my hand, and it's been a labor of love since then. And so I hope it is as well for you. But thank you so much for your involvement and your presence and your leadership in helping to steer this ship of Newton Youth Soccer. You might have heard before, I think we're the largest youth sports, a single sport organization, and mostly single sex organization in the state of Massachusetts. Um, I talked the past couple of weeks with a couple of other presidents of Natick and Wellesley and a few other towns. And we're significantly larger than those folks. We have a lot going on. Um, and if they are larger than we, that it's because they're combined. If you combined us with the girls, it's 2,500 kids per season. It's a big group, and we're almost all volunteer run, and that has a lot to do with you guys. So thank you so much for everything you're bringing to the table. Um, with that said, we always have room for more in terms of helping to run the club. So if anyone is hankering to raise their hand, we have a few spots as folks have aged out on the board, and roles that we're looking to fill. Our equipment person could use a boost, some support. Our social director has aged out. She did so many things. Amy, she was an AGC and a bunch of other coach, and I don't know. She had so many boys, and we thought she would be with us forever, but they've aged out. So that role, bookkeeping role, finance role, if you have any of these, or just generally want to jump in and help, we absolutely would love you to. Just reach out to myself or contact Ed Jenkinson or anyone, if you know anyone that you see here. We'd love to have you. So who do you see here among the 225 volunteers that it takes to run the club, excuse me? You've got several of our board members. You have Kostas Pavlidis, who runs the entire travel program, which most of you here are coaches under. He stepped up to that role a couple of years ago and is doing some awesome work there, as well as being, coach and AGC and winning a half a dozen trophies along the way, with more to come. So one of our most decorated coaches, along with David Belfour, who is another highly decorated coach, a Massachusetts Tournament of Champion level coach, and board member for a long time, and um, our Bays liaison, and everyone, as you can see and hear, wears lots of hats. And so again, we'd love you guys to join us. I'm not sure I saw Matt Cusick, but he's recently joined the board and is an AGC. And our other board members, we have a treasurer who doesn't even have any children in the program. She's just a amazing volunteer. And that's Laura Woodward. Sean Darcy is a coach and has done AGC work and is on the board as well. Stephen Bradley is our treasurer and took over for Amy and championing our Revs events, Sid Chowdhury in high school.
Secretary now, Cliff.
I'm sorry?
I'm now the secretary. Laura's the treasurer. I was the interim.
you've worn every hat in the organization, so we'll give you secretary for now. He basically keeps us copacetic with the state and a number of other things. Stephen's work is tireless if you've ever met the man. Um, and I know I'm leaving somebody out, but oh, Jothy Peters. So she handles outreach and has been a coach, and she's helped grow our program. One of the things that you and we all support, I think we got up to over about 125 or possibly more scholarships that we give out to kids in Newton, working a lot with the Newton social workers team, where a lot of these families, their choice is, groceries or soccer. And so we try and take that choice and make it not a choice because we want to foster the love of the game and have these kids play with us. So we do a lot. You guys do a lot. And if anybody wants to volunteer some more, we are absolutely open to your help. Lots to do. A couple of other people that need some recognition and deserve some recognition. Our technical director, Zach Anderson, is a panelist, I believe. I think I saw him earlier. You'll see him on the field a lot. A terrific addition to the team about a year ago. And I think he was coaching with us a little bit here and there for a while. And we were able to bring him on board. And again, if you haven't interacted with him yet, you will, and your group and yourselves, you'll be a little smarter and better for the experience. And that's Zach Anderson. And then, of course, number one in your hearts, number one on the list, Ed Jenkinson, top dog, director of coaching and registrar. Looks like he's at the top of my screen on the right as a panelist. I'm sure you all know Ed. Ed does a lot to really run the club. So we want to thank Ed, and I'm sure all of you are cheering wildly and a rousing applause if we had this on, if we took this off speaker mode or presentation mode, we could hear that. But anyway, just a little bit of the team that helped put this together. We have some things that we want to get to that are super important and talk to you about that are different. And when you hear about a couple of the updates, we're really going to encourage you, please be sure to talk to your other coaches and your parents about some of these changes that are happening to the updates to the zero tolerance policy. So we're going to get into that in a minute. But without further ado, and away we go, I am turning this over to who?
Steven. Cliff, just Matt Cusick as well, recently joined the board.
No, he got Matt Cusick, longtime coach, new board member, bringing some new blood, new ideas, and a terrific set of skills to the board. And that's one thing I've always loved about the board is a lot of creative, smart, dedicated people that care about the kids, care about Newton, care about physical, mental health of our families in Newton, and put their heart into it. So we again thank you, and we welcome you if you have any more energy for us.
And we have Nick Scalchato from the Revs as well.
Nick from the Revs, who's going to, that leads right into our next agenda item. We have a great partnership for years and years and years with the Revs. They are going to hook us up with an awesome event again coming up in May, and Nick's here to talk about that. Take it away, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And yeah, for everybody who doesn't know me, obviously, Nick with the Revs, been Newton's town rep with the Revs here for like 8 or 9 years now. So always fun working with you guys, and glad we can keep it going for this upcoming year. For those of you who don't know, obviously with the number of kids that you guys have and the number of players on both the boys and girls side, Newton throws a huge community night at our Revs game once in the spring, once in the fall. We're just a good excuse for getting the team together, getting a bunch of families together that love soccer to watch the pros outside of, or watch soccer and watch the pros outside of your typical practices on Tuesdays and your own games on Saturday, mornings and afternoons as well. Due to the partnership that we have together, Every kid is able to go, or every player in Newton Youth Soccer is able to go for free for this Newton game on May 17th that we're going to do. So pretty simple. All your parents and yourselves included are going to get an email next Thursday with the link that you can use to get your team set up with tickets and get your family set up with tickets. And there will have instructions on how to, redeem the free tickets for your kids as well. But pretty easy. If you have any questions, let me know. It's always just always fun time. And I think last year it was like our third year in a row getting like over 750 people from the town coming out to, support soccer, support each other, hang out and have fun. So really looking forward to it. If anybody has questions, you can ping me offline. So
That's huge. That's awesome. Thank you. It's always a great night.
and hopefully we actually, score some goals. Been a rough start to the year for those who are following. So
Oh, and there's a game too. So it's a great night and there's some entertainment.
exactly. Wins or losses, especially the younger kids, they really don't care. They just want to hang out with their, friends and kick a ball around in the parking lots beforehand and eat some hot dogs, right? So
Oh, gosh.
it's all fun.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah.
do you mind talking about NGS being there too?
Well, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the girls are all set as well. So, if any of you have kids playing in both programs, it's they're doing the same night. How it works logistically is like your email that you'll get from us with the instructions, like the code that you use to get your free tickets will be the same for both kids. So it should be pretty seamless. Um, but yeah, they're same deal. It's a full Newton community event with both organizations. So
Great. And then you will be there at the game, right?
of course,
So you're
oh
very
yeah,
reachable, I can tell you that.
yeah. Literally, I mean, Steven knows. I think what was it last month when we were chatting at like 7 o'clock at night? Like, yeah, I'm around.
It's
Don't
great.
hesitate to reach out. And
It's super
on
fun.
top of that, too, if you're not just, this one-off game, if you're looking to come to any of our on-field events where the kids play on the field or are looking to come to like a bunch of games later in the year, again, I can help take care of you. So
Thanks, Nick.
thank you guys. Good to see you as always.
Thanks, Nick. Costas?
Yeah, hey, so before we launch into the upcoming season, just wanted to make everyone aware of the fact that NYS did its first, hopefully not last, trip to England in February, over February break this year. It's the first time we'd ever done it. We partnered with a company called Go Play to run the tour, and basically 21 folks representing NYS, kids and parents, traveled to the UK, toured around. They went to 3 professional games. They saw 2 Premier League games and 1 championship level game, which is the next level down. The kids got some coaching from some Premier League academy coaches and also with the England youth team coaches. They did a bunch of stadium tours while they were there. They did some non-soccer stuff, like they did a Ted Lasso tour. They did this tour on the Thames and some speedboats that looked kind of fun. And overall reports back were great. We weren't sure how much traction this would get our first time doing it. We got enough interest that we ran the tour. We got a sense of how it went and the fact that everyone really enjoyed it. And it was enough of, I think, a successful test case for us to do it again next year. So I think we're going to run it over February break again next year. And just wanted to get it on everyone's radar early. The kids who went this year were a mix of different ages and different levels. What we would love to do is match some kids from the same age up, even if we could get a whole team over there, or say kids from maybe 2 or 3 different teams in the same age group level who could actually play together. Go Play will actually organize games and scrimmages for those kids over there too. So in addition to, getting the academy level coaching and doing the tours of the stadium, they can actually go out and play against some of these clubs as well in the UK. So it could be a really, really fun thing to do. So for the coaches out there, if you have interest in doing that with your team, you have about a year to think about it and plan for it. It's going to happen over February break next year. And if anyone has questions about that, they can reach out to me or reach out to Ed. You'll start to see some communications coming from us and Go Play about it over the next few weeks.
Costas, I think this year we focused it on certain age groups. Will that stay the focus? Do you think that we might
Yeah,
open
we did 5th through 8th just because that seemed like the age group of kids who would get the most from it. Everyone's got different age families, so it turned out that a lot of the 5th or 8th graders who were going had younger or older siblings, so the group itself ended up being kind of across a wide swath of ages. But I think if there are 3rd grade coaches out there who will have 4th grade teams next year who really want to do this, we can absolutely organize it for them as well. Go Play is a really good partner. This is what they do. They bring teams to different parts of the world. They bring teams from England over here. They bring teams from here over to England and Spain and other places to get a flavor of different sports. Soccer is one of them, but they do a lot of others as well. And they really organized this seamlessly for us. It went really, really well, and the reports back from the families who participated were super positive. More to come.
Okay, thanks, Costas. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope everyone is excited to be outside again. I am. The weather has been cold. So the rest of this content is kind of soccer related. If you have any questions on the way, use the Q&A function and we'll try to answer them live. And if not, we'll get to them at the end. But if you have any questions, it pops into your head, type it in, and we'll try and answer it live. So just from me, quickly on equipment with our equipment coordinator, Carl, we're going to run 2 nights or 2 evenings in the week. Usually we try and do a Saturday morning. It just couldn't work this year. So next Wednesday evening, we'll do one. And then the following Friday before your first game on the Saturday, we'll do one. So if you need new balls, everyone can come and get 2 game balls, ice packs. If you order stuff with Carl through the Google Sheet, come and get them. If they don't work those times, you can contact Carl, and he'll usually be good at leaving stuff on his porch, or you can arrange another day to come and pick it up. But try to come by if you're a new coach or you have a new coach in your team. They can come and get some apparel as well, so they can look the part. But those are the 2 dates we're going to do this. If you need anything topped up for the spring. Oops. All right, the rest of this is kind of Bays related, league related, game related. I'm not going to go over stuff like practices and fields because there are some juicy topics coming up. But the first one I wanted to just give you the dates that we have coming up for the league play. We're a little bit later than normal. I feel like normally we'd start a week on Saturday, but we're kind of a little bit behind because of the calendar this year. So we go first game on the 12th, and we run all the way through Father's Day weekend. Schedule should come out tomorrow, I think, or the next couple of days. And once you have that, I'd go ahead and get it loaded into Team Snap and trying to figure out your availability as soon as you can. There's 2 weekends over April vacation. There's also Memorial Day weekend. So trying to get ahead of what games you can play and what you might need to reschedule is going to be kind of huge for me as the reschedule person, but also just making sure that this season can go through. We can get all the games in. We're going to talk about another way that Bays has changed the rule now to help us get more games played on as the schedule is listed. But these are the important dates. You can see the referee appreciation weekend. There is a seatbelt Saturday, Sunday as well. And just generally the dates on the left there, nothing too unusual. Bays, and this is a problem we have most years, but Bays are very keen to re-emphasize this. And I read the information that was sent to referees that Dave shared with me about credentials. And they're going to be pretty tough on this. I think pretty much everyone is going to have a credential at this point. If you don't, or you need it be resent, I have them. If you don't have one because you're new, I can help you get this sorted. but you need to have it with you on the sideline. You need to wear it. And if you don't have it, the referee is it within their rights to tell you to leave, and you're going to have to leave. This can go all the way to a sending off, and there's more sort of there's bigger implications depending on how that conversation goes as we get further down the line. Just have your credential, please. If you need it, I can send it. I can give you a lanyard. I can give you a plastic sleeve to keep it. But this was a point of emphasis from them. Yes.
If a coach forgets their credential, okay, they can't coach. Can they go to the parent sideline?
Yeah, that's what they'll be told to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And having it on your phone won't fly. You need to have it in hand. Slight difference if you haven't coached in the spring season before, there are some changes in terms of some competitive levels that you can get into now. The Massachusetts Tournament of Champions happens in June, and teams that are in grade 6, grade 8, grade 12, and grade 10, divisions 1 and 2, are eligible for that event. So if you're a D1 grade 6 team and you win base playoffs and you're top of your section and you go all the way through, you can qualify for this tournament. So the season can extend if you're in that category. So just something to be aware of if that is you. Grade 6, D1 and D2, grade 8, which includes our 7th grade teams, D1 and D2. If you're not in those brackets, but your grades 6 and 8, there is an additional tournament you could play if you want to do. This is an optional event. They call it the President's Cup. It's a Bays Cup competition. It's a $50 entry fee, which NYS would cover, and you'd end up in a straight round robin with whoever else enters from your grade and your division, and you can go play 3, 4, 5 games, go to a final, semi-final, final, and win a tournament. Completely optional. I'll send out a note about this, but if you want to do it, you just tell me. I'll enter you, and away you go. The way Base do it is if you're in the tournament, they'll send out a schedule. If you're listed as the home team for that schedule, and I think it's pretty random, you arrange a field, you host it with me. You go play, win, you go through, lose, you're done. So you could play 1 game, you could play 5 additional games. It's great fun. So if you're interested in doing that as an additional event, grade 6 and grade 8, division 3 and 4. If you're a 5th grade team, division 2 and 4, and if you're a grade 5 division 1 team, you have the opportunity to play in the championship game straight up. There's no entry for that, but anywhere from 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If you want to play an additional tournament, there are options for you this spring through Bays. And if you're a D1 and D2 team at 6 and 8, you can potentially qualify for MTOC. So just another consideration. Spring season is championship season. It's fun. We had a couple of winners last year. Costas was able to bring home some wins. We had a couple of other teams up there playing. They hosted at the Massey Soccer headquarters in Lancaster. If you make it that far, for MTOC, President's Cup is usually in Medfield. So some options, some opportunities to play more soccer if you want to do it. Reach out if you want to play President's Cup. If you have any questions, fire them over.
I highly, highly, highly encourage everyone that's eligible for these tournaments to field a team. The President's Cup is an awful lot of fun. The farther you can get in it and along through it, it's a blast. The MTOC, the Bays playoffs and MTOC, that happens naturally as you progress through the season. If you're in a qualifying category, there's great opportunities there. Costas and Dave Belfort started us off on some winning ways with the Massachusetts Tournament of Champions. That clearly the momentum then went right to Newton North and Newton South in the fall as they dominated their seasons, and ultimately we got a state championship out of that too. So let's start getting the kids a taste. It's incredibly fun to win, but it's fun to play. So I'd encourage everyone to look at those seriously, and if you haven't done them before, jump in. It's a blast.
Okay, One thing I would say to everyone, Ed, is those tournaments run really, really late into June, and a lot of Newton families start to vacation. overlapping with that. So if you're in a team that's planning to be in one of those tournaments and potentially playing as late as whatever that was, the 27th and 29th of June, it's probably good to give your team a heads up now that that's a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so on to some base changes, and Dave, I'll talk about this, Costas. If you want to at any point chime in, I'm just going to cover them as I read them and understood them.
Sure.
And they kind of go in order of kind of severity, interestingness. I don't know. So the first one is you'll notice this now in base games, the post-game handshake line is no longer a requirement or will be something that you will see as a needed thing in a game. So after the game, usually you'd line up on the halfway line, good game, good game, good game, good game, all that stuff. No longer is that necessary. You don't have to do that. What will replace it is a pre-game sportsmanship announcement and handshake line. So, like you see the professional players do these days, you will shake hands before the game, play the game, and then what happens after the game is kind of up to the coaches. You can say, well done on the field. You can just walk off and leave. There's no requirement to do anything post game. So, in addition to that handshake line, I think I even put what will happen here. So, here's the procedure. What will happen is after you get checked in, both teams and the referee crew will line up at the halfway line on the coach's sideline. You'll go out to the middle of the field, line facing the spectators, 5 yards from the 5 yards from the sideline, and then a representative of each team, sorry, the home team will have to read a sportsmanship statement. So this is a Bayes rule, Bayes requirement now. The referees will lead it, but it's something we have to do as home teams. Go out to the middle, sorry, go out with the referees, line up, read the sportsmanship statement, and then you'll do a pre-game handshake line where the home team will walk down the away team line, shake hands. What is that pre-game statement? It's this. So a representative from your team must read this to spectators, to the teams, to the coaches before each game. That representative can be a coach, it can be a player, it could also be a parent of your team. But this is the statement that you have to read.
And the theme here is that they're trying to prevent the kids at the end of the game when everybody is sort of energized from being combative. We've all been in lines after the game where the kids start misbehaving and being cheeky to each other. I think the sort of goal here is to have the kids shake hands beforehand when everybody's calm, to remind everybody that these are kids playing soccer and to behave yourself and respect each other. And then after the game, you can still do a lineup, but it's not going to be sort of more formal and sanctioned.
Ed, I expect this is going to be messy as referees get used to it. At the start of the season, is Bayes clear about who is ultimately responsible for making sure this statement gets read? Or Dave, I don't know if you know that. Is that the home
Yes,
coach
the home,
ultimately?
yes, it's the home coach, and the referee has a box to check when they submit their game report, which is required for them to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
There's a box that they have to check that the sportsmanship statement was read.
Got it.
I agree with you. This is going to take a lot of getting used to. It's the tip of the iceberg compared to the rules that are about to come, though.
As you guys think through as coaches the end of the game, are we recommending we do any one thing in particular? Are we recommending that the coach communicate with the other coach prior to the game, say, hey, what do you want to do at the end? Or say, hey, our team, we tend not to do a with the handshake line at the beginning, we don't do anything at the end. Or is there any advice for coaches around organizing the end so it's people on the same page?
It's a very good question. I hadn't thought through that. My inclination is to still, if there's a semblance of calmness, to encourage them to just say goodbye to the other team and give them a usual handshake. But the referees aren't going to stick around, I don't think. Not going to be the usual sort of formal line.
I like when they do it on the field, like when
Yeah.
the guy you're marking, you just say, "Hey, good game, bud," or whatever. To like, I kind of like when it happens more organically like that. But it may be something we want to just have a recommendation around, so it's not just haphazard. But if it's been done at the start of the game and the referees aren't sticking around for it, I don't see a need to do it at the end.
Other than sort of habit.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
There's going to be a lot of.
one more note on that topic. The last time I coached, there was the handshake line, then you went up and fist bumped the ref. So that is out as a formal standard.
Yeah, it all happened pre-game.
And so the fist bump, you go through the handshake line, and then are the kids gonna, say, keep it fair, ref?
I hope not. But they are going to say good game, and they'll go off and play their game. I actually think the idea is an interesting one. I'd like to see if it helps sort of calm everybody down and avoid confrontations near the end of the game.
And there's a good question here around the statement because it is kind of long. I don't think anyone's going to have it memorized. Are we giving cards to people? Is that something the coach kind of should take? Was the referee going to have a statement on them?
So hadn't thought whether we were going to provide this. I mean, I will provide this digitally for everyone to have. Whether you want to print this off or have it on your phone. I mean, one idea I did think about was if you want your players to do this, nominate a player each week. It might be a fun thing for them to take responsibility on. But I had not thought about handing out cards. But I'll share this digitally for sure. I don't think the referees, Dave, I don't know if they're going to have this. They may.
Yeah, I don't think this is a referee sort of obligation.
A home
So
team.
have it on your phone at the ready for now.
Yeah, and we'll look into maybe printing up a laminated thing to just have them to give out.
Okay,
Mice
great.
ha-
And then
Mice- I was just going to say, Mice has a very nice form. I don't know if you saw it, Costas, and that it's the procedure on the top and the statement at the bottom.
right. Yeah, we can send that out to everyone so they can kind of get a copy of it on their phone. And then Courtney, you asked if we're not allowed to do anything after the game. You can do whatever you want after the game, but the formal, what used to be the formal line at the end of the game where everyone says good game is now going to be done before the game. If you want to do it again at the end of the game, that's totally fine. But there's no requirement to do it. And like Dave said, the referees aren't going to stick around to watch that happen.
And I guess I would recommend that when you're communicating with the coach prior to the other team's coach prior to the game, maybe make a decision about what you plan to do at the end of the game. Because if they're not on the same page, it's going to feel
Awkward.
it'll be awkward.
Yeah.
All right, that's a change.
Okay, the second change, I think is a good change and one that may be helpful in terms of scheduling and getting games played is that Bays have introduced a guest player policy for this spring, beginning this spring, whereby, essentially the short version is you can now have a player from a team from a section below yours or the same same divisional section play with your team as long as they're a new soccer player. Players can play up division or up an age group, but they can't play down. So if you're a D1 team, you can basically pull anyone up, but if you're a D4 team, you can't pull someone from above down. So the aim of this, as far as I'm aware from Bays, is to reduce the amount of games that we reschedule for availability reasons. Allowing schedules to be played as fully as possible the way they're scheduled. So we're not cancelling things for teams that, your 7v7 team, you have 6 players. Well, now you can basically hook someone from a team below, have them play with you and get that game in as scheduled. So there are some rules to this. There are some procedures you have to go through in terms of if you pull a player to play with your team as a guest, you now have to have copies of your rosters, 2 of them, and copy of the guest players' team rosters, 2 of them. And then you have to basically cross out anyone on your roster that's not playing, and then cross out anyone on the guest player's roster that is not playing. And then both sets need to be have the game number on, and both sets given to the referee, which will then be given to the opposing coach. So the procedure would be that you have to reach out to me to basically get this okayed. I provide the rosters that you needed for those teams and those players, and then you go to your game. So I'll make sure people have this. There's a lot more information. The policy is a lot bigger than this one slide can show you. And Bays are worried that people will game the system here and use it for a competitive advantage, and that's not really the aim of this. The aim of this is to allow teams to fulfill their game schedules without having to cancel multiple games for unavailability and all that good stuff.
So if you're a D2, let's say B, my team's and I'm a 2B, I'm a 2E coach or a 2F coach. Can I have a player from the 2E as long as they're in D2, or anyone from D3 or 4 can play up? Or is it only down, parallel or down?
Yeah, it's parallel or down, so you can play another 2E player can play for you, or F or 3 can play for you, but you can't have someone from 2A. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
It's a guest player playing up versus a player playing down. But there could be instances where if you're a D1 grade 6 team, you can have a D1 grade 5 player play for you, and things like that. So, ultimately it'll come through me as the registrar providing rosters. So, if you have a need for a player and a player and they're willing to play, I'll still make sure that it meets all the criteria before I issue those rosters and give the okay.
And I think
they're also Bays are also concerned about players playing multiple games in a day. So we want to respect this, because I think it's a great thing to make sure that we can play our games as scheduled. But
yeah, that's the big thing. If you're struggling with players, reach out to Ed, or let's see if we can get a couple of guest players, before you have to reschedule.
I think there are limits to the number of times a player can play up as well. I think it's only 2 times. Is that right, Ed? You remember?
I'm going to go back. I'll go again. There's a lot of different things about.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
You shouldn't do. So without committing right now to the actual rules, I think this in general is a helpful rule, but there are some.
And especially early with the vacation, the 2, after the first weekend, the next 2 are vacation weekends. So numbers can really be down there. Or, if there's a washout and you have to do a reschedule and you do hit upon a reschedule, sometimes those get messed up, but suddenly players can't come. So hopefully we can make those games happen.
Yep. Okay, another biggie.
All right, I'll take it. 531.9. So you folks all remember the zero tolerance policy that we sort of drum on about at the beginning of each season to ensure that we are not penalized for communicating with the refs improperly. Well, U.S. soccer came down with this policy 531.9 that has been adopted by Bays, our league, which effectively codifies some pretty significant penalties associated with misbehavior towards refs. And it includes not only coaches and players, but also spectators. And it also encompasses both travel and intramural. So it really covers everyone. And, you know, of course, the goal is to protect our referees from abuse, many of whom are children themselves. And in fact, the rules, you'll see the bottom bullet point here, the rules incorporate a multiplier in the event that there's a violation towards a minor referee. So it's triple the punishment, and the punishments are pretty severe. I found it fairly compelling that these also apply to clubs, private clubs, not just town clubs like ours. And they publish the actual violations on the Bays website. Just to give you some context for this, zero tolerance violations have historically been in the 2 to 3 violations per season range for our club. Sometimes there's an outlier. The spring of 24 looked like there were 10. I don't know what happened. Maybe the water, maybe COVID caught up. I have no idea. But the fall of 23 was just 2 ZT violations, the lowest level 1, and last fall, the 24, we only had 3, all the lowest level 1. But you'll see even low-level violations now have fairly significant penalties, and they're divided between verbal abuse and actual physical abuse. And we have a short video, which I think is useful. We're going to play it for you, and then I'm going to sort of give you a couple of examples because the video is 2 minutes long and doesn't really give a lot of nuts and bolts.
Flag me down if the audio is not playing. It doesn't play just yet.
Soccer is a beautiful game, full of passion that can bring out the best in us. But when passion crosses the line, it harms the game's integrity and the safety of those who work in service to soccer. Referees are essential to the game, yet they often face situations that threaten their well-being. In our commitment to protect and empower our officials, U.S. Soccer has strengthened its referee abuse prevention policy. The revised policy encourages referees, players, coaches, and spectators to report abuse. Referee abuse is not always physical. Aggressive language and behavior are also forms of abuse. Comments or gestures intended to insult, belittle, or undermine a referee are unacceptable. This behavior results in a minimum 2-game suspension. Abusive language, harassment, intimidation, or threats towards a referee will result in a minimum 4-game suspension. Physical threats or derogatory language, in person or online, result in a minimum 6-game suspension. Discriminatory actions targeting a referee's race, ethnicity, gender, orientation, or other aspects of their identity result in a minimum 10-game suspension. Far too often, referees also endure physical abuse. Outside of a friendly handshake, there is never any reason to touch the referee. Even minor deliberate physical contact, if unwanted, will result in a minimum 3-game suspension. Intentional physical confrontation, like shoving or throwing objects, results in a minimum 10-game suspension. Violent acts such as physical assault on referees threaten the safety of everyone involved. These acts can result in a lifetime ban and legal action. Together, we have the power to shape the future of soccer and create a culture of respect where players, coaches, spectators, and referees can enjoy the beautiful game the way it was intended. Be a force for good. Respect the call.
Yeah, so here they're broken down in this handy-dandy chart. And you've got on the top here the non-physical, and you see, even sort of an accidental, that's actually physical. Sorry, I skipped to that. The non-physical is insulting, belittling, insinuating, taunting. It goes all the way down to offensive and discrimination, which is up to a 24-month ban. So some of these rules have really significant penalties. The one that sort of is interesting is the minor slight deliberate touching, maybe no kicking of balls or throwing of things or any of that. I mean, these are serious. People need to sort of pay particular attention to staying away from the refs, not communicating with the refs, and informing your parents about this, which is the big deal. And the video that we just played is available on the MISA site. We can distribute the link so you can distribute it to your team. But the examples that they provide on the MISA site for these categories, for example, the first non-physical insulting, belittling, the 2-game minimum game suspension are things like saying, do you even know the rules? Did you forget your glasses? What's the other team paying you? Those sort of comments. The second level would be something that's harassment and intimidation of verbal. That call was complete X. You're a effing joke. You can't make a single good call. And you can see these are very close calls, whether they're 1, 2, 3. Level 3 is you're gonna pay for that, more sort of aggressive. I'll see you in the parking lot. I'm gonna shove that card down your throat. You better watch your back. Those are the examples that MISA gives us. And then there's discrimination, racial and ethnic slurs. That's level 4. So this is new. It just came into effect at the beginning of March. It's going into immediate effect. And so we have to comply with it. So these 2, 3, 4 ZT violations are now going to turn into a minimum of 2-game suspensions, and worse. And so we really have to make sure that we inform our players, our parents, and our co-coaches about sort of the new rules. I think for the most part, these are necessary because people are behaving very poorly towards our referees, many of whom are kids. So my kid was a ref, and I can tell you that the reason most refs don't want to go referee, and there's a shortage, is because a parent, an adult, a coach, a parent, somebody watching the game says something nasty to them. On the other hand, sometimes kids perceive things in a different way, and they're intimidated by things that might not otherwise be intimidating. So you need to be very careful about the way you communicate with the refs, and limit it to the sort of the 3 sort of pillars that we spoke about at the beginning of the year. Asking them about a certain rule before the game starts, pointing out an injured player, alerting them if you need to make a substitution, and then shaking their hand at the end of the game. There should be no other touching. So, or at the beginning of the game, apparently now. So that's all I have to say on this. There's a much longer video if you're interested in watching a 20-minute video about sort of the nuts and bolts of this. I'm sure Ed can circulate that link. There's a pamphlet that details all these examples that I've sort of cherry-picked for you. There's an appeals process, which will have to go through MISA. Apparently, if you appeal, there's a cost that you need to pay to appeal, like $500.
Yep.
So it's become extremely serious. That's all I can tell you, and it's new to us. So we're gonna live through it with all of you, but be very careful about your communication with referees, and warn everybody else about that as well.
Dave,
Yeah.
I just want to underscore a couple of things here. These penalties are, I think, potentially even larger than you're looking at, because if it's my understanding that if the ref is under 18, which so many of our travel refs are, the penalty is actually doubled. So if you are a coach and you have said something that the 17-year-old ref feels is untoward, and I can tell you that virtually anything you will say to a 17-year-old ref will feel powerful. Anything coming from an adult to a youth, it has authority and feels very strong. that could be a 2-game penalty, but it's now doubled
Tripled.
because
It's
what's
tripled. It's
it's
tripled.
tripled, excuse me,
Yeah.
because the ref is 17, and that is 2/3 of your season. Number one. Number two, just so you understand, you are banned from every US soccer related activity. So if you also coach IM, you cannot attend the game, I don't believe, as a spectator. You can't coach during the week. You can't go to your kid's club game for this specific period. And it's possible your name might be, it's not quite doxing or whatever, but they have this list, but my understanding is that's going to maybe be behind a firewall. I don't know, but they're publishing some stuff. So even that idea is kind of crazy.
Cliff,
So
we had
you got to
a
be careful, or you're going to, for throwing your hands up and saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." That potentially there goes 2/3 of your enjoyment with your children getting
we
coach
we have a
impressed.
question about whether this is just coaches or also parents, and I think it's a really important point that it's parents, it's coaches, and it's the players. And I think those are three different, areas of potential problem that as a board and as a coach, we need to be aware of. So whenever we get to this section in the coaches meeting every year, we always encourage you guys to do a kickoff meeting with your parents for the season. And with these new rule changes, I think that's more important than ever. I think we'll communicate these as a club, but I think parents need to be super, super aware of them. So, we would love for you guys to communicate them to your parents and make sure that they understand the implications of some of this stuff. Because I think the coaches are generally aware of what we can and can't do on the sideline. The parents are less aware of that, and that's probably where most of the commentary comes from when it comes to refs. And I think the reality is with these rules being new and the referees getting trained on them, there's probably going to be quite a bit of sensitivity to all of this when we start the season, and we don't know what that's going to result in, whether it's going to result in refs being more trigger happy and kind of like writing these violations up for the slightest infraction or not. So I think everyone just needs to be aware of it and needs to be really careful. And some of the things that fall into the first couple of categories of non-physical behavior here are things that players, once they get to like fourth and fifth grade, start to do on the field a lot. Will the ref let it go, or will they decide to make an example of it? We don't know. So another thing I think as coaches we have to do is make sure the players understand what the implications of this stuff are, and really try to encourage them to cut as much of that back talk and cheekiness and everything else that they might exhibit on the field with refs out of their game.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the overall message is don't risk it. Now more than ever, just don't risk there being an interpretation by a referee of what you meant. And please, we always seem to have one or two parent incidences. I mean, these games get heated, they're competitive, and the parents on the sideline yelling, "Call it both ways, ref," or something, and that can get that parent in trouble. But that could somehow extend farther to the club. And by the way, I think these penalties also are just the first time. This is a first time offense, right? So
Yeah.
if it's the second time, it's like everything's doubled, and you won't be coaching or spectating as a parent for a long time, or
Yeah.
playing as a kid, which would be terrible.
Just to keep pushing through this, Alec asked if the slides can be shared, and all of the slides from the meeting will be shared with all of you guys afterwards. And then JP asked if a parent breaks the rules, is the whole team punished, or is it just the parent? So the way that this has traditionally worked is as long as the parent can be identified, then that parent is the person who gets punished. But in the past, when the parent couldn't be identified, it was actually the coach that bore the brunt of the problem. Dave, do you know if that's still the case with these new infractions? Because that seems really harsh, if so.
I do not know.
We've heard it's staying with the parent, that all the spectators from that team will be banned.
Okay.
Wow.
Right, Ed? Is that what we heard?
From what I understood, it's not super clear. I don't think the coach is going to be held accountable for that, but it's, I mean, yeah.
But as long as the parent can be identified, it will be the parent. And so hopefully if a parent does something and there ends up being a problem around it, they'll at least be willing to come forward and, take the punishment so nobody else has to suffer for it.
A coach with a band cannot be a spectator, and you can't coach IM. You can't watch your 7-year-old play, third grade IM or whatever, or go to your kid's club game. So it's draconian, and especially this spring when it's first being implemented, there's a lot of room for interpretation because these are new to the refs as well. This is not stuff that they are familiar with, and seems to me that there is more discretion this year with the kids that are reffing. So let's mind our P's and Q's, and please communicate this to your fellow coaches and your families and your players.
I think the easiest way to look at this, because zero tolerance is gone there, this replaces ET, but the message from us to you is still the same, that there is just no reason to talk to a referee outside of, saying hello at the beginning, asking for a sub, alerting them to an injured player. There's just no other reason to do it, however bad or, incorrect you think their call or their decision is or was. And now this puts it out pretty in these colors, right? So, we've had ZT2s before that, they're interpreted differently from the referee to what the coach says, but there's not going to be much come down from this. What was a ZT1 is now 2-game ban times by 3. It's 6 games you're done for most of the season. So we don't want to have anyone in this situation. Players, parents, but especially our coaches. So you'll receive all these slides. I took a lot of screenshots from the larger document, which I'll share the video to, and there'll be plenty more information to come. The referees are going to be trained on this in the next couple of weeks, in the next few days too. So this is big time, and and it's important. We want to support the refs. They need to feel valued as part of the game. And I think, Cliff and I are on a call with one of our older refs who is an adult, and I think he listed 5 adult referees in our base system, in Newton. So the chances are you're going to have a minor referee for your game, 95% of the time. So don't look at this as 2 games, it's more like 6.
Big changes.
Big changes. I don't know if we've covered it quite enough or emphasized the gravitas of it, but it's something we have to make everyone aware of, especially the parents who don't hear this message as much as you do as coaches. But what I was saying was essentially ZT continues in our mind. Don't talk to the ref, don't question a call, because these referees will now have a bigger punishment to dish out, and probably rightly so. So I also wanted just to link, the Bayes website does indicate that whilst the undermining the referees and questioning calls is obviously being deterred here, you can still ask for subs. You can still alert for an injury, and you can also now, although I would suggest you don't, you can also now ask for clarity on a call, a direction. You can say, what is the decision? But even then you might not like what they say, and that can be a slippery slope. So I did want to link just to this. You can read this in your own time. Match Rule 15 about supporting the officials. But
yeah, as one person said, you can ask a referee, what was that call? So that's sort of seems like it's a legal question or an okay question, except that it says you have to do it respectfully. So what you may think is respectful, the referee may not feel is respectful. So that's why we're really concerned about the gray areas and the areas that are open for interpretation. Even though there are some areas where you can communicate. Was that a direct or an indirect kick? There was an incident where the referee said, I'm not communicating, but my hand's in the air, it's indirect. If it's not, it's direct. And was all upset about the asking of the question. Now, maybe there was other things that went into that built up to that, but it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions here. So, is there any guidance? This is from Brian. Any guidance to address communicate with referees during the game for a concern that avoids being viewed as confrontational? So the example you gave here, Brian, is calling attention to a player that's injured that the ref hasn't noticed. That is one of the things that is an acceptable communication with the coach. If there's a player hurt on the field, the ref hasn't noticed, you can be, as vocal as you want, obviously respectfully, in calling the ref's attention to that. And then Courtney asked a similar question around clarifying a call with the ref. What I would say to that is if the clarification is because you don't know what's supposed to happen next, then that's a clarification worth asking about. Is it our free kick? Is it their free kick? Is it a free kick or a throw in? Like if there's confusion about what the next action is taken, it's worth clarifying. If the ref is given a free kick or a penalty and you're not sure what it's for, I would tend to just accept the fact that they gave a free kick and a penalty and move on. At that point, getting an explanation for it isn't really going to benefit anyone. They're probably not going to change the call. And I think if you push that too far, even though the rules kind of say it's okay to ask for clarification, I could see a ref potentially taking exception to that. It's a personal feeling on my part. I just don't think it's worth it because you're not really going to get a whole lot from it.
The rule on the Bays website, match rule 15, coaches may ask questions before the start of the game. Coaches may not approach the referee at halftime or at the end of the game, except to respond to an official who has initiated conversation, point to an emergency or safety issue. Brian, so that would be a player injured, call for substitutions, ask the officials to clarify only the type of restart or direction of throw-in or indirect versus direct free kicks. And sorry, the last one is ask for the time remaining in the half. So you can ask how long left, respectfully. But outside that, those are the 5 instances you can talk to the referee. Like Costa said, I think that otherwise you accept and move on, whatever the call is.
Do you mind if I add a few comments?
Awesome. You have a
Okay,
suit
so
on.
first thing I would say is, this happened last year, comments don't have to be aimed at the referee. If comments are made between coaches and they're overheard by the referee, that still counts as disrespecting the referee. And that has come up. Usually it comes up with offside calls because it's difficult for the referee to be everywhere. And sometimes coaches will raise their hands and say, oh, that's not offside, or start making a scene and then distracting the referee. So be very careful with that. Next thing I would say is we know that this is entertainment. This is meant to be a safe environment for referees, many of whom are players, right? Many of whom don't want to be the center ref. They're quite happy to be the AR, but don't want the responsibility of being the center ref. And then many of who is in the spring season will be doing back-to-back games, sometimes in really hot weather. And if you've ever played on turf and it's 80 degrees, 90 degrees outside, and you're there all day and you find how difficult it is, we know that it's not possible for refs, especially young refs, to make every call, right? It's just not going to happen. But fortunately, in Newton, we'll quite often have, whether it's Ed or Zach or our referee assigner, Giannis, will be in and around many of the games and available to oversee many of our refs as they're working through. But again, I would just say to all the coaches to speak to your assistant coaches and your families and say, hey, please don't raise your voice, if even speaking within yourselves, because it actually is distracting for the players as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, I mean that. Go on.
There was a good question about from a bad man. There was a good question about what do you do when somebody shows up late, a player, and normally you'd call the ref over to, let them know, or you tell the, for check-in of a late arriving player. How might you handle that?
You just send the player over to the ref to check in, the side ref.
I like it.
So
I'd like to add. Can I add a couple things? I saw some questions about the policy for guest players. I just checked the rules briefly, and you can have up to 4 guest players. The same guest player shouldn't be used more than 3 times a season. And it looks like players should not play in more than 2 games per day. So those are sort of the parameters of the guest player policy that we are learning. Sorry, Ed, go ahead.
No, I didn't have anything to add apart from whether there were any more questions. I mean, we're going to send all this out, and I'm sure there'll be more things we need to bring up. But if there are any more questions on it, now's the time.
All right, work in progress, but error on the side of caution.
Okay, thanks everyone. Contacts here, just in case you need a reminder of them. But Zach and I are kind of your first point of contact for anything soccer related. Any questions, any practice related issues. Zach will be out doing sessions with teams. So if you want to see him, reach out. But otherwise, he might just drop in and show up. We have the permit from Monday, pending the weather. See if the wet rain can hold off and we can open grass fields on Monday, and we'll be out there. And then first games coming soon. If
Ed,
you need me, you know where I am.
thank you. Do you mind if I add 2 quick things?
Of course not.
Thank you. So Bays has been posting games and schedules, and so those are appearing online, and strongly recommend, especially for games that are scheduled over April break, to try and pre-play those games. What we find with the spring season is whether it's President's Cup or club games or MTOC, quite often players get double booked in that month of May, and it can be difficult to find enough players to field the team. And then second of all, I would say that if you are planning on President's Cup and MTOC, which will be different divisions, but the President's Cup games tend to be played on weeknights. And so you need to make sure your players are available. And the MTOC games tend to be played in June, often around the time of like high school exams and things like that. So you need to tell your players far enough in advance when those games might be happening, just to make sure you have enough players to play, because it's happened several times where teams that are very strong field 9 players and then might lose President's Cup games or MTOC when they would otherwise win.
That is true.
Speaking from a man who knows, right?
I've been there. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, anyone? Should we wrap it up? I broke my promise of an hour, so.
One thing, Ed, we have a question about rain and cancellations, and the best way to know that, Newton Fields on Twitter is I have found to be the best way to get updates on whether the fields are up, open or closed.
Yeah, that will update. We lost the ability to text people with the Twitter used to be connected and would shoot out a text. We don't have that now. So generally I'll email everyone. I'll just send an email of that morning or whenever we get the alert. I would not rely on the website field status. That's a manual input, and I think I forgot to close them all winter. So Twitter is good. If you don't have that, I will email, but you'll hear from me. No news is good news. So if you don't hear from me, I don't often say they're open. It will be they are closed. If you don't hear, they are open. Same for practices. I'll email the folks who are practicing on any night where the field's closed. I'll email Twitter.
And Ed, for the most part, any games on turf won't be cancelled in rain.
Correct. Outside thunder and lightning, we play on turf. All right.
That's it.
Okay. Thanks very much, guys.